right fit for Florida? We're talking to a former lawmaker who wants things changed to include every voter. Joining us today, and for the first time in a while, Jason Altmire, former member of the House of Representatives. So, Congressman, you've written a little bit about something that Florida Supreme Court has been taking up recently, open primaries. So explain your view, and maybe we'll talk about what should happen in your view here in Florida.
In an open primary system, all the candidates are on the same ballot regardless of party affiliation. Everybody running for office, Republicans, Democrats, Greens, Libertarians, Independents, Reform Party, all on the same ballot, and every voter votes regardless of party affiliation. So independents are allowed to vote, and the top two go into the general election. And what that does, if you're running for office currently in a closed primary system, one-third of the electorate is locked out of that process. One-third of Florida voters are no party affiliation, independents. They can't vote in the primary. Yet their tax dollars fund those very primaries from which they're excluded. That's one issue. The bigger issue is when all voters vote. If you're a candidate running for office, in that situation, you have to appeal across the spectrum, not just to the narrow base extreme within your own party, as is currently the case with closed primaries. If you want to win in an open primary, you have to appeal to everybody. You have to appeal not just to your own party, but to people in the center and even people in the other party. And in states where this has been enacted, like California, for example, research has shown that both in Sacramento and in Washington, D.C., their congressional delegations and their state legislative delegations get along more. They compromise more. And candidates, when running for office, don't use the extreme partisan rhetoric because they know that that's going to turn off the majority of the people that they need to support.
But that's certainly something we've seen over the last several years. Is it feels like it gets more extreme. And I guess from your perspective, is that bad for the country?
I travel all over the country talking about political polarization and election reform, and I get asked all the time, why is there so much partisanship in Washington? And the answer is very simple. It's because we elect partisans. We have a system that is designed to elect and protect people on the far extremes of the two political parties. What open primaries does is it gives voice to people in the center. Doesn't give them a greater advantage. It just allows them to have a voice in the representative when currently, as I said, one-third of independent voters are locked out of the process entirely.
So one of the things that brought us to this conversation was that All Voters Vote, organization pushing a 2020 ballot initiative that supporters say would push the reset button on democracy. And Florida State Supreme Court here heard arguments first week of this month. The Attorney General, Ashley Moody, said, hey, court, you should reject this. So do you think it stands a chance of being enacted or coming this year even?
It does stand a chance. I think it will be on the ballot in November of 2020, and voters will then decide. And the reason that you know you're on the right side of something is when both the party apparatuses oppose it. They can very rarely agree on anything, but they do agree that they don't want to open up the process to allow all voters to vote because that takes control away from the party apparatus and gives it back to the voter.
So let me ask, I guess, playing devil's advocate, don't members of those parties have a right to choose who their representative is going to be without interference from people who aren't affiliated?
That's the private club argument where you have a Republican Party and a Democratic Party and they should choose. And they're very free and able to do that, except for the fact, as I said, the tax dollars of every Florida taxpayer pays for those very elections that they're excluding one-third of Florida voters. So that argument doesn't hold water when you look at the fact that you want to hold A, an election where all voters can vote, and B, you want every taxpayer to be able to participate in the elections that they're paying for.